My father said, "Your sister is the family's legacy. You're just the one who pays for that legacy." I stood up straight and replied, "If I'm only the one who pays, then consider my wallet officially closed tonight. Live the rest of your life as if you never had a daughter." He went silent. The entire gala froze. The Boston Art Museum gala was glittering. Champagne flutes chimed like tiny bells, and the scent of expensive perfume and old money hung in the air. I stood near a marble column holding a glass I didn't want watching my parents. My father Kenneth looked distinguished in his tuxedo. My mother Patricia was impossibly elegant in dark blue silk, laughing as she held court with a group of museum donors. They looked perfect. They looked proud. I watched my father gesture animatedly, pulling my younger sister Brooke into the circle. "You must meet the real artistic soul of our family," he said, his voice booming with a pride he never ever used for me. "Brooke, this is Mr. and Mrs. Davies." Brooke co-organized this entire event. Her vision, Brooke, glowing in a designer dress that cost more than my first car, just smiled demurely. "Oh, Dad, you exaggerate. I just helped with the creative direction." Co-organized. I almost laughed. Brooke hadn't organized anything. I had. I was the one who'd spent 60 hours coordinating with the venue, the caterers, the museum board. I was the one who had, through an anonymous donation portal, funded the very award my father was here to accept tonight. I was the patron of the arts. And then there was the house. The beautiful colonial in Chestnut Hill. They were all so proud of the one they were terrified of losing. I'd been paying the mortgage on it for 4 years. $4,000 a month. Every month. Like clockwork. I'd done the math. $192,000. And Brooke. Her glittering nonprofit that she used to build her social brand. I'd funded that too. $50,000 in startup capital that I knew I'd never see again. I watched my mother touch Brooke's hair, her eyes shining with adoration. She turned to one of the guests. "Of course, we have our other daughter, Kelsey. She's the practical one, an architect." She said the word architect like it was a minor, unfortunate affliction. "Kelsey just draws buildings. Brooke has community impact." And in that moment I realized, this wasn't even conscious malice. In their minds, this was just the natural order of things. It was the trap of normalized cruelty. When you're the responsible one, your sacrifices stop being sacrifices. They just become expectations. My $4,000 a month wasn't a gift. It was just a utility bill being paid. My $50,000 wasn't generosity. It was just what Kelsey does. My success was infrastructure. It was the plumbing and the wiring holding the house up. But Brooke was the art hanging on the walls. No one ever throws a party to thank the plumbing for allowing them to look at the art. They just assume the water will keep running. My family didn't hate me. They just didn't see me. I was the reliable machine that produced the resources so they could all stand in the spotlight and celebrate the family's real legacy. Brooke. I stayed there in the shadow of the column, invisible. I watched them laugh and mingle the stars of a show I had paid for. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was used to it. I told myself it was just one more night. I didn't know that in about an hour my father would pick up a microphone and say the one thing that would finally make the machine stop running for good. The applause was deafening as my father Kenneth walked onto the small stage to accept his Patron of the Arts award. He looked every bit the part, distinguished, successful, humble. He accepted the glass trophy and beamed at the crowd. Thank you, he started, his voice resonating with false modesty. "This isn't really for me. This is for the community. It's for the artists. And most of all, it's for my family who inspires me every day." He turned his gaze directly to my sister. "I want to thank my youngest daughter, Brooke. Her passion for community, her boundless creativity. She is the true artistic soul of this family. She is my inspiration. Brooke, this is really our award. You are our family's legacy." People were dabbing their eyes. My mother was beaming. Brooke looked like she was accepting an Oscar. I just sat there, my wine tasting like acid. The applause died down, and as my father was about to step off the stage, one of my colleagues from the firm, a senior architect named Mark, who was sitting at my table, spoke up. "What about Kelsey?" he called out, his voice friendly but clear. "She's one of the most talented young architects in the city. You must be proud of her work, too. The room turned to look at me. I wanted to slide under the table. My father paused. I saw a flash of pure annoyance in his eyes before he replaced it with that practiced dismissive chuckle. "Oh, Mark, of course. We're proud of all our children," he said, waving his hand as if swatting away a fly. "But let's be honest, Kelsey is practical. She draws buildings. Brooke has community impact." And that was it. The sound in the room seemed to fade to a dull roar. It wasn't just a dismissal. It was a public execution of my worth. All the years I had stayed quiet, all the checks I had written, all the sacrifices I had made so he could stand on this stage. It all crystallized into one blinding hot point of rage. I stood up. The scrape of my chair against the polished floor was obscenely loud in the sudden silence. Every head turned. My mother's smile froze. Brooke's adoring gaze faltered. My father stared at me, his eyes narrowing. "Kelsey, what are you doing? Sit down." My voice came out, and it wasn't the voice of the invisible daughter. It was cold. It was clear. It was done. "You're right, Dad," I said. "Brooke is the inspiration. But you forgot to thank your biggest patron." He looked confused. "What are you talking about?" "This event. This award," I said, my voice carrying across the silent room. "The one you're holding. I paid for it. The anonymous donation that funded this entire evening. That was me." A collective gasp went through the room. My mother's face went white. "And that house," I continued, looking right at him, "the one you're so proud of, I've been paying the mortgage on it for 4 years, $4,000 a month, $192,000. I've been paying for your legacy, Dad. While you've been busy telling everyone I'm not good enough to be part of it." My father's face was no longer distinguished. It was a dark, furious red. He had been humiliated in front of everyone. His colleagues, his friends, his artistic soul, Brooke. He stepped back up to the microphone. He didn't yell. He spoke in a low, venomous tone that cut through the room better than any shout. "Honestly, Kelsey," he said, his voice dripping with contempt, "your sister is the family's legacy. You're just the one who pays for it. I didn't even look at my mother. I didn't look at Brooke. I just held my father's gaze for one long, cold second. Then I picked up my clutch from the table, turned, and walked out of the gala. I heard someone call my name. I think it was Mark, my colleague, but I didn't stop. I walked past the marble columns, through the grand lobby, and out into the cool Boston night. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry anymore. I just felt empty. Like something I had been carrying for 28 years. Something impossibly heavy had just been set down. I didn't take a cab. I walked the 2 miles back to my apartment. The sound of my heels clicking on the pavement was the only sound in my head. For years, people like my friend Kyle had asked me, "Why do you do it, Kelsey? Why do you let them treat you like that?" I never had a good answer. I'd say it was just easier to keep the peace, or that they needed me. But that was a lie. The truth is, I was trapped. I was living inside an invisible prison. It wasn't a prison with bars, but one made of hope. The hope that if I just worked harder, gave more, sacrificed one more piece of myself, they would finally turn around and see me. That's the invisible shackle of the survivor. You think your abuser holds the key to your freedom, that their validation is the one thing you need to be whole. You keep feeding the machine, hoping one day it will finally say thank you. But standing in that gala, hearing my father's words, "You're just the one who pays for it," that wasn't an insult. It was the key. He didn't just humiliate me, he liberated me. He finally admitted the truth I had refused to see. I was not a daughter to them. I was an asset. And assets can be liquidated. I got to my apartment, unlocked the door, and walked straight to my desk. I didn't turn on the lights. The glow from the city outside was enough. I opened my laptop. The screen booted up, illuminating my face. I went to my bank's website. I logged in. There it was under scheduled payments. Mortgage payment, Kenneth Adams, $4,000. Scheduled for tomorrow, November 11th. My hand was perfectly steady. I moved the cursor over the payment. I thought about my father's face, red with rage. I thought about Brooke's shocked expression. I thought about my mother's cold disappointment. I thought about the $192,000. I clicked cancel payment. A small box popped up. Are you sure you want to cancel this recurring payment? I didn't just click yes. I clicked cancel all future payments in this series. It was done. I closed the laptop. I sat there in the dark, and for the first time in my entire life, I could actually breathe. The silence that followed was absolute. For 3 weeks, nothing. No angry calls, no manipulative texts, just the vast, open quiet of a life I was finally building for myself. I went to work. I bought a new rug for my living room. I started sleeping through the night. I had almost convinced myself that they had simply accepted it, that they had finally let me go. Then the storm broke. It was a Tuesday morning. I was at my desk reviewing a blueprint when my phone lit up. Mom! I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Immediately. I let it go. The third time I picked up. Kelsey, thank God. My mother Patricia wasn't calm, she was hysterical. What is it, Mom? The bank. They called the house. They used the word. They said, foreclosure. Kelsey, what did you do? The mortgage payment was never made. I held the phone away from my ear, listening to her panic. I didn't do anything, Mom. I simply stopped doing something. I stopped paying it. You can't do that, she shrieked. Your father is a mess. This is our home. You have to fix this. You have to call them and fix this now. No, I said. It was amazing how simple the word felt. No, I don't. Kelsey, you are not doing this to us after everything we... I hung up. My hands weren't even shaking this time. I took a sip of my coffee, turning back to my blueprint. Less than 60 seconds later, my phone rang again. This time, it was Brooke. I answered. It wasn't a call, it was a performance. Kelsey, she wailed, and I could hear the fake gulping sobs. Kelsey, you have to help me. Everything is falling apart. What's wrong, Brooke? My nonprofit, the grant I was counting on. It fell through, and all my other donors are pulling out. I'm going to be ruined. They're going to sue me. She was a terrible actress. I'd seen her use this exact voice when she wanted a new car in high school. I need $20,000, Kelsey, she cried. Just $20,000 to cover the immediate debts. Please, Mom and Dad are losing the house. They can't help. You're my only hope. You've always been the one I can count on. I leaned back in my chair, looking out my office window at the Boston skyline. The timing was just perfect. The bank calls Mom about the house, and minutes later, Brooke needs $20,000 for her failing nonprofit. They really thought I was that stupid. They thought that after all this time, I was still just the family ATM ready to dispense cash at the first sign of a family crisis. Wow, Brooke, I said, my voice smooth as glass. That sounds terrible. Let me see what I can find out. You'll do it. You'll send the money. Her relief was too fast, too eager. I said I'll see what I can find out, I replied. I'll call you back. I hung up. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even hurt. I was curious. If they were going to lie, I wanted to know just how deep the lie went. I picked up my phone again, but I didn't call my bank. I called Kyle. Kyle, I said, my voice steady. He picked up on the second ring. Kelsey, haven't heard from you in a minute. Everything okay? I heard about the Gala. I'm fine, Kyle. Better than fine, actually. But I need a favor, a legal one. I'm listening. My sister's nonprofit. The one she's been running for the last year. Can you look into it? Public records, financials? Anything you can find. She just called me asking for $20,000, says it's about to go under. There was a pause. Kyle knew my family's dynamic. You think she's lying, he stated. It wasn't a question. I think I said that I've been paying for a legacy that doesn't exist. I'd just like to see the receipts. Consider it done, he said. I'll call you as soon as I have something. I spent the next few hours working. I didn't pace. I didn't check my phone every 5 minutes. I just worked. I finalized a design submission for a new commercial tower, sent 3 emails to my engineering team, and updated my project budget. With every keystroke, I felt more and more detached from the panic my family was trying to force on me. They were a problem to be solved, and I was, if nothing else, a very good problem solver. Kyle called back at 4 in the afternoon. Kelsey, he said, and his voice was flat. That's how I knew it was bad. You were right to be suspicious. Go ahead. It's a mess. The nonprofit is barely a nonprofit. It's just a shell company. It's registered, but the tax filings are a disaster. From what I can see in the public disclosures, there's almost no legitimate activity. No grants issued, no community programs. Just a whole lot of consulting fees paid out to Brooke. I closed my eyes. So she's just incompetent. No, Kelsey. It's worse than that. I pulled the bank transfer records you forwarded me from last year. That $50,000 startup capital loan you gave her. Yeah. It didn't go into the nonprofit's operating account. It didn't pay for community outreach or program development. He took a breath. It was a direct wire transfer. The same day you sent it. From her account to a luxury car dealership just outside Boston. I didn't say anything. Kelsey, did you hear me? What kind of car? My voice was quiet. A 2024 Maserati, White Kyle said gently. She paid $50,000 down and financed the rest. She must have been underwater on the payments for months. That's the $20,000 she needs. Not for the nonprofit, for her car note. I looked out the window. A car that cost $50,000. The exact amount I had given her. Money I had saved. Money I had earned by working weekends, by skipping vacations, by telling myself I couldn't afford a new couch. It wasn't just entitlement. It wasn't just spoiling her. This was fraud. This was theft. She had looked me in the eye, talked about community impact, my family's favorite phrase, and then used my sacrifice to buy a status symbol. And as I sat there, the full sickening weight of it landed on me. My father was right. Brooke was the family's legacy. A legacy of taking, of lying, of presenting a beautiful, glittering surface, while the foundations built by me rotted away underneath. And I, the architect, had just found the rot. I heard a small ding from my phone. A text from my mother. Kelsey, your father and I are coming over. Brooke is with us. We are going to solve this as a family. Good, I whispered to the empty room. Come. The knock came at 7:00 p.m. Not a polite rap, but a frantic, rapid pounding. I looked through the peephole. All three of them. My father Kenneth, his face gray and haggard. My mother Patricia, her eyes red and swollen. And Brooke standing behind them, looking terrified. I opened the door but left the chain on. Kelsey, thank God, my mother lunged forward, pushing against the door. Let us in, please, we have to talk. I undid the chain and stepped back. They spilled into my living room, bringing the smell of panic with them. They're taking the house, Kelsey Patricia sobbed, collapsing onto the couch I had bought for myself. The bank. They sent the final notice. We have 30 days. You have to fix it. You have to call them. And Brooke, my father interjected, his voice hoarse. She made a mistake. A stupid, childish mistake. But they're threatening lawsuits, Kelsey. Lawsuits. It could ruin her. It could ruin us. Brooke, for her part, just stood by the door, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Kels, she whimpered. I didn't mean for it to get this bad. I was just overwhelmed. Please, you're the only one who can fix this. You're the only one who's good with money. I let the silence hang in the air. I let them squirm. I watched my mother, who had dismissed me, my father, who had humiliated me, my sister, who had stolen from me. All of them standing in my apartment, begging me to save them from a fire they had started. I can fix it, I said, finally, my voice quiet. A wave of visible relief washed over them. Patricia actually put a hand to her heart. Oh, Kelsey, I knew you would. I knew you wouldn't let us. I can fix it, I interrupted, my voice as cold as the Boston Harbor. I have the money. I could call the bank right now and pay off the entire mortgage. I could write Brooke a check for $20,000 and make her legal troubles disappear. I saw my father nod a small, eager motion. But I'm not going to. Their faces froze. What? What do you mean, my mother stammered. I looked at Brooke. I called a friend Brooke, a lawyer. He looked into your nonprofit. My sister's face went from pale to ghostly white. He found the car, Brooke. The Maserati. The $50,000 Maserati you bought with my startup capital. The money I earned working nights and weekends. The money you took while you talked about community impact. I turned to my parents. You wanted to know about Brooke's mistake. She didn't fail at her nonprofit. She committed fraud. She stole from me. That is your family's legacy. My mother looked at Brooke, her mouth open in a silent O. My father stared at her, his face a mask of disbelief and rage. Brooke, is that true? Brooke just crumpled, sobbing. I was going to pay it back, I wanted people to see I was successful. And you, I said to my father, who wouldn't meet my eyes. You were right. I'm not the legacy. I'm just the one who pays for it. I walked to my front door and opened it wide. But as of tonight, I said, the wallet is closed. My mother started to say my name, a desperate, broken sound. But I didn't wait. I closed the door, shutting them out. I turned the deadbolt, and for the first time, I felt the heavy, suffocating weight of their expectations finally completely lift. The consequences were predictable. The house was foreclosed. My parents, with no savings and a ruined reputation, had to move into a small rental apartment 2 towns over. Brooke was sued by her other donors for fraud. She had to sell the Maserati to cover the legal fees, and even that wasn't enough. I watched it all from a distance. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel anger. I just felt nothing. They were just people I used to know. With the $192,000, I was no longer spending on a house that wasn't mine. I made a down payment on a penthouse apartment overlooking the harbor. And with the first check from my new higher-paying position at the firm, I established the Kelsey Adams Grant, a small scholarship fund for architecture students from low-income families. Tonight I'm standing on my new balcony. The city lights of Boston are spread out before me like scattered jewels. It's quiet up here. Peaceful. For years I thought family meant bleeding myself dry for people who shared my last name. I thought love meant accepting scraps and being grateful for them. I was wrong. Sometimes cutting ties isn't an act of aggression. It's an act of survival. You have to be willing to let go of the family you were given to finally find the one you deserve. And sometimes the only way to find yourself is to get permission to stop looking for everyone else. If this story touched you, share it. You don't know who needs to hear this right now to find the strength to start their own new chapter.